I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I feel like I'm going insane. But then I realize there are people out there who jump out of planes on D-Day. They don't bathe for weeks on end, and they steal trains for fun. So if you think you're fucking crazy, think again. Chances are you're nowhere near as crazy as this guy. And this guy's name is Jake McNasty McNeese, and this is his story. So Jake was born in 1919 in the small town of Maysville, Oklahoma. He grew up in the Great Depression with 8 siblings. Parents must have been horny as fuck. Anyway, during this time, it was hard to just like survive. So Jake had to kind of get creative, and he got his first job in construction. And of course, his job was to blow things up. So in 1942, when everyone was getting drafted into war, Jake was low-key pissed that he didn't get selected. So he decided to volunteer, and not just for any old position. He joined the newly founded 101st Airborne Division. And if you don't know who these guys are, they were the dudes that would jump out of the planes and be pulled down to the earth by the weight of their massive steel balls. Now, to put this into perspective, McNasty took part in 4 combat jumps during World War II. One of them was D-Day, where he parachuted into Normandy undetected hours before the invasion and blew up bridges to make sure that the Germans couldn't get to the beach. Not to mention, before they jumped, he forced his men to shave mohawks into their heads and put on war paint so they looked like Native American warriors. Another one of Jake's jumps was the Battle of the Bulge, where he volunteered to be a pathfinder, which McNasty even said himself is like signing your own obituary. As a pathfinder, he had to jump behind enemy lines and light flares so we could drop things there. I mean, dude was basically just telling the enemy where he was, which is kind of insane. Not to mention, the Battle of the Bulge took place during January in Belgium, so it was absolutely freezing. But as good as he was on the battlefield, off of it, the guy was an absolute degenerate. And yes, for everybody wondering, this is where things get a little crazy. So Jake was part of a team of 12 other men, and they called themselves the Filthy 13. You know, I thought maybe they got the name because they were like so sick at exploding things or something. No, it turns out that they would just never shower to avoid lice, which ironically worked, but their living situation was absolutely diabolical. Apparently their quarters were scattered with like and fish heads, and when it came to inspections, normally the higher-ups would be pissed off about the disregard for human decency. But whenever they came around, the boys would just be like, come on in, I guess, and their commanding officers were like petrified to walk in the place. So luckily, this is just the tip of the iceberg. McNasty and his band of brothers would get up to some absolutely insane mischief. They were kind of like the Motley Crue of World War II. It's kind of far, actually. Anyway, let's talk about McNasty's disregard for human life. While stationed in England in 1943, they were posted up at this dude named Sir Willis's estate. Now, this was a beautiful estate with lots of land, lots of livestock, and McNasty was basically just like, I just don't give up. So one day, Jake and his boys just go up to one of the cows and murk it. They eat it, and they put the cow's head on the dining table of their commanding officers. The U.S. Army was eventually fined $10,000 for the dead livestock. Or I guess dead stock. Anyway, while stationed in North Carolina the same year, McNasty and the gang stole a train and drove to the nearest town for a night of partying. Not to mention, on the way out of the base, they blew up a tree so nobody would follow them. Unfortunately, this act got them arrested for insubordination and landed them in confinement for quite some time. McNasty was later interviewed about all his antics and said this: "We went AWOL every weekend that we wanted to, and we stayed out as long as we wanted to. We stole jeeps, we stole cranes, we blew up barracks, we blew down trees, and we stole the Colonel's whiskey." But nonetheless, McNasty was awarded a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star Medal for his service in World War II. Not to mention, in 2012, he received the French Legion of Honor, which is the country's highest decoration. But unfortunately, just 1 year later, we lost him. McNasty passed away on January 21st in 2013. Now, I love telling this story because it shows how you can pretty much get away with anything as long as you just get done. Like, McNasty was so good on the battlefield that they almost didn't want to punish him or take him away from doing his job. So just be more like McNasty, guys. But please shower. And make sure to tell this story to someone who is a hippie and hates war so they will cry. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment your favorite Asian person. See you guys in the next one.